Hi, my name is Artie Smith from Kent Denver School, and my goal here today is to show you how I built this data visualization for the DICE project that we did in our Algebra 2 honors classes. Now this might not be a great introductory data visualization project. I'm going to use Tableau, but my hope is that you guys could kind of follow along, pause the video as needed, and hopefully build this visualization. Again, the program I'm using is Tableau, which is free. Tableau Public is free, but there are certainly other programs that you could use for this. And the first thing I want to talk about here is the data, and this, a lot of the work, a lot of the time that I spent was actually cleaning the data. So we collected the data on Google, and what I chose to do is cut and paste each kid's data and put it into one big Excel file, which is what we're looking at right here. It required a fair amount of cleaning just because kids are so haphazard and messy in their data collection. But this is what it looks like. I think we've got a couple thousand rows worth of data. All right. And what I'm going to do now is connect to this data in Tableau. All right. I'm going to connect to an Excel file. And here it is, DICE 2023. Excuse me. And here's the data set. This looks just like it did in Excel. Okay. So I'm going to go to sheet 1 here. And first thing I wanted to do is combine a couple of these variables. We've got this variable teacher name. Okay. And I've got 3 teachers who participated in this. And then we've got class period. Okay. Oops. I'm going to make this a dimension, and I'm going to drag this so we can see period 3, period 4, period 5, and period 6. And I believe it's Miss Dubler who teaches 2 of these periods. So I kind of want to combine these 2 variables, teacher and class period. So I'm going to make class period a string and combine them in a calculated field. I'm going to call it teacher and period. And the formula I'm going to use, I'm going to drag in this string teacher plus space plus quotes space there we go. So that would be the formula that I think is going to work here. Again, pause the video as needed, but just to check and make sure that that worked. Boom, there it is. Dominguez period 5, Dubler period 3, Dubler period 4. All right. And I think the first graph that I built was simply looking at teacher and period, and I wanted to do the average roll for each of these periods, right? Which class is the best at rolling dice, if you will. So I'm going to drag in sum here, and I want to get the average. Okay, so we can see Schrader's period 6 had an average roll of 6.243. Dubler period 4, 6.691. Dominguez here, either they're really bad at rolling dice or I actually know what's going on here. There were a lot of kids absent in this class, okay? And those kids who were absent, their sum was recorded as a 0. And that is affecting the average roll, not only in the Dominguez class, but in all of them. And I don't want that to happen. So what I'm going to do, there's a couple ways to fix it, but I'm simply going to drag sum into filter and say that I only want to count sums between 2 and 12. I hit OK, things adjust, and it turns out that Mr. Dominguez, his class were the best rollers on campus that day. Okay, I think I also dragged teacher and period into color, spruce it up a little bit. I can go to standard and do the entire view, make it bigger. And I think this is more or less the graph that I used. Okay, maybe I cleaned it up a little bit more, but I think this gives you the idea. All right, sheet 2 here is going to be a harder one to build. Actually, go back and name this first one average roll by class. Okay, the second one, what I'm going to try to do is build a histogram which gives the frequencies of each roll. So I want to know what percentage of the time did we roll a 2? What percentage of the time did we roll a 3? okay, right on up the line. So we're going to build that, and then we're going to compare what we observed there, the graph we just built, to what we would have expected using fair die. All right, and then we're going to add some filters to it. All right, so try to get this going here. I'm going to start by dragging in sum to columns. I want this to be a dimension. Okay, again, I only want to deal with sums between 2 and 12. Let's factor out the kids who were absent. And now what we're going to do, drag sum in here, and I want to count up how many times we observed each of these. So what this is telling me is that 66 times kids rolled snake eyes, a sum of 2, and 159 times kids rolled a sum of 3. All right, now I actually want to change this into a percentage. Tableau makes it easy to do that under the analysis menu, percentage of table. Okay, you can see the y-axis has changed. 2.28% of the rolls were 2. Okay, I think I made this into a bar graph. All right, and this is nice. Okay, I think this is a good start. And remember, this is what we've observed. Okay, sum of 7 was 16.91% of the time. Now, I want to compare this to what we would have expected if the dice were fair. All right, and in order to do that, I need to create a new calculated field. I'm going to call it expected frequencies. For the sum of 2 dice. All right, and this would be a lot to type in, so I typed it in earlier, and I'm just cutting and pasting it. But what this is saying is that if the sum of the dice is 2, then the probability is 1/36. Okay, the expected probability. Sum of 7 should happen 6/36 or 1/6 or 16.67% of the time. Okay, so we've got that. Again, pause as needed here. So I'm now going to try to build another graph beneath this one. The top one is going to stay the same. It's going to be the observed frequencies. The bottom one is going to be these expected frequencies. So I drag this in, observed on top, expected down below. And what did I do here? I think I got to change this maybe to a dimension. Yep. Okay, and then one other thing. Right now we can see these axes are inconsistent. Here, 15%. Here it's 0.15. Fixed to that, I'm going to go to this expected frequencies pill. And I think I want default properties, number format, and I want to make it a percentage. Okay, so that'll work. Now, I've got these two graphs here, and I want to focus just on this bottom one for a second. So I'm going to make sure that I'm clicked on the expected frequencies right here. And I'm going to change it from a bar graph to Gantt bars. I'm going to change it to red. And I might even beef up the size a little bit here. Okay. So expected in red, observed in blue. Now what I want to do is put them on the same graph. Okay. And Tableau calls that a dual axis. So I'm going to go and right click on this axis, select dual axis. Okay. Looks like it changed it to orange for some reason. That's okay. If you look closely, though, you'll notice that the axes are not synchronized. 16% doesn't line up perfectly with 16% over here. It may be more clear down here, the 2 on the left and the 4. So I'm going to right-click and choose Synchronize Axes. Okay, and I'm now going to hide the one on the right. Okay, so now we've got this graph comparing expected frequency to the observed frequency. Okay, and certainly I cleaned up these tooltips, all right, a little bit. If you go to my the graph that I made on Tableau Public, we could do that. I don't think I want to spend the time doing it right now because I'm trying to keep this video fairly short. Okay, but I think that there's a lot of good stuff to talk about in this graph. Now, the next thing that I wanted to be able to do with this graph is to filter this by class period and then eventually by student. Okay, and Tableau makes that pretty easy. So I'm going to drag in teacher and period to filters. And for right now, I'm going to select all. And I'm also going to drag in name, select all, and hit OK. Okay, and I'm going to choose to show each of these filters. Okay, you'll see they'll pop up on the right over here, and I'm going to put the teacher one on top. I always prefer to do single value drop downs on these. I think it's just a neater presentation. Okay, and now what we can do is we can say, all right, well, this is what we were looking at before. Oops. Okay, this is all the kids, but maybe I just want to look at Dubler period 3 or Schrader period 6. Okay, and we can see everything changes. Now, something else that I can do is something I'd maybe like would be if I choose, say, Dubler period 4, I don't want to see every student who did this. Rather, I think what I prefer to see are just the kids in Dubler period 4, just the relevant options here. So if I choose only relevant values, now when I've got Dubler period 4 selected, I've only got the students in Dubler period 4. Okay, and I could, if I just want to see Charlie's work, there it is. Okay, we can compare what we observed to what we expected for Charlie. Okay, so kids will have fun digging in and looking at their kind of roles. All right, so this is looking at the sum of the 2 die. Okay, I also did another sheet, okay, which looked at individual die. So I think in this case we had 4 different die. We had bronze, gray, orange, and purple. And I'm going to build a histogram for each of these colors. Okay, kind of do it one at a time. So I think I drag this in. I'm going to make it a dimension. Okay, I'm going to drag it in here and do a count. And I want to change this to percentage of. And maybe make this bars, I think is what I used. Okay, so we can see this bronze die got a lot of 6s and not many 3s. Okay, now I think one of the important things that we're trying to convey in this lesson is the idea of comparing what we observed to what we would have expected. Any AP statistics teachers in the audience will, of course, kind of recognize that as a recipe for a chi-square test. And we're not going to go that far, but we are going to encourage the kids to think about that method of decision making, how far apart are observed and expected. And to help with that, what I'm going to do in this graph is add in a constant line. All right, and of course with just one die, these probabilities are easy. There's a 1/6 probability or a 16.67% chance of any of these coming up. So I'm going to go to analytics and I'm going to drag in a constant line, and I want it to be, I think 0.166. Yep. Okay, so there we go. So this would be what's expected. This is what we observed. All right, so we were light on 3s, but we had a lot more 6s than expected. Okay, so this is the bronze die. All right, and of course, I'm going to do the filters like I did before. Teacher and period, all, name, all. Okay, I'm going to show each of these filters. And again, I like to make them single value drop down, and this bottom one, only relevant values. Okay, so what we can now do is take a look just at Dominguez period 5, and Issa must have been absent that day. David looks like he was absent. Dylan. There we go. Mason was in class. All right, and Mason, we see huge deviations between what was observed and what was expected. Okay, now I want to do a graph like this for each of these, and I took the time to make this bronze. I don't know, maybe that's bronze color. okay? And I color coded this. Now, to save yourself a little bit of time, what you might do, actually it's not going to save much time, so I'll now do the same graph for gray. All right, and make it a dimension, gray. I want to count them up, and I want a percentage, and I want bars, okay, and again I'm going to add in a constant line at 0.161667. All right, and now we're looking at the gray, and of course I can make this a nice dark gray, okay. All right, so I would do that for all four, and then I decided to put them together into one dashboard, put them all in one place. Okay, so I would build out the other two colors, same way I just did, and then I'm going to choose this button down here, which gives me a new dashboard. You can see that's where I am right now, dashboard 1. And these are the slides that I've already built. So what I can do is just drag in, there's the bronze one. Okay, I can drop the gray one next to it. Okay, looks like I need to work on kind of synchronizing these axes. Okay, so I think what I did is fixed these axes, and maybe I ran them, I can't remember, I think I maybe did them up to 28% on each one, something like that, 0 to 0.28. But certainly I had to play around with it. Okay, and if I built the other two, I think we had a purple one and an orange one, I would drag them and drop them beneath here, so I would have 4 of these. Okay, and then what I want to do is apply this filter to, well, let's just do all using this data source. Okay, and I can do the same with this, apply to all using this data source. And now, let's try this out. Okay, start them on all. Okay, and now maybe I say, all right, I only want to see doubler period 3. And maybe I choose Caleb. Okay, now it looks like Caleb did throw a gray die, but he didn't throw a bronze one. Okay, his other die must have been purple or orange, right? But it will update. Whichever dice they threw are going to show up here. Okay, and these filters will apply to all 4 of these histograms. So that's a quick crash course on this. I'm trying to keep the video short. I certainly could go on for a long time, but 18 minutes is plenty. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. My email is asmith@kentdenver.org. Thanks for listening, and have a great day.